going to call to order the regular meeting agenda for this September 15th meeting of the City of South Fulton Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Aaron Johnson. I am the chair for this meeting today. We'll again apologize for having to come back again for this meeting, but we're gonna make sure it runs all right tonight. We're gonna start with a call to order. That's on you. Well, I call to order, I'm sorry, roll call. You're right, it is.
So, Mr. Aaron Johnson,
Present.
Mr. DeAndre Mathis,
Here.
Mr. Michael Carson,
Here.
Ms. Sonia Patterson,
Present.
Mr. Brian O'Donnell, Ms. Amethyst Harris,
Present.
Ms. Judy Booker. Chairman, we have a quorum.
All right, the first order of business is for approval of previous meeting minutes. I hope everybody had an opportunity to look at the meeting minutes, and I think we'll have a correction. I don't know, Mr. Carson, if you wanna call it?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, motion that we approve the October 21st, 2021 meeting, minutes and the May 19th, 2022, meeting minutes with a correction in the May 19th minutes.
Okay, and what's that correction?
In the first line, it says Mr. DeAndre Mathis made the following suggested. Just change that word to following.
Okay.
And that's the May 19th, 2022.
Did you get that, Marissa?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, a motion to approve the October 21st, 2021 regular meeting minutes and the May 19th, 2022 regular meeting minutes with a word correction has been made. Is there a second?
I second.
Properly moved by Mr. Carson and seconded by Ms. Harris. All those, do you need a roll call to just take the vote?
So we're gonna talk about that in a moment, but right now,
We'll just take the vote.
okay.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we have covered the October and May, and I think there is a note about the August meeting. Mr. Carson, you wanna take that, or?
Mr. Chairman, the August 18th meetings were not included in our packet that was emailed to us, and they're not included in this packet, so we need to hold those minutes to the next meeting so that we can review them. So I move that we hold the August 18th, 2022 regular meeting minutes to our next meeting, our next regular scheduled meeting.
Properly moved, is there a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Harris as well. All those in favor of holding a vote on the August 18th regular meeting minutes? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, we have no old business, but before you said you wanted to talk about something.
Yeah, so in the new business section, there's item 7A is review of ZBA procedures.
Okay.
And so that's what we're gonna do first.
Okay. And that's in here, right?
Yes. So,
I got a draft motion. Do you have one too? Oh, that was in the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, there we go. So basically, our enabling ordinance says that we can approve procedures, and basically the purpose of the procedure is just to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly. The procedures aren't anything substantively different than what we're already doing. It's basically just something to adopt as kind of rules for how we want the meeting to go. And so staff has prepared some procedures, and so you guys can decide if you want to adopt them. And we can go in a little bit of detail about what's included in them. So basically, one thing that it talks about is virtual meetings. I hope that we never have another pandemic ever again. Even though I guess we're not completely out of this one. But if we ever did have another pandemic or something that was going on that meant we had to have virtual meetings, it just has kind of directions for how to have those meetings and what the flow will look like. What's in the procedures is basically what we were doing throughout the whole pandemic before we were back in person. But it just talks about virtual meetings. What else is on there? Nominating chair and co-chair. Again, not anything other than what we've already been doing. It says basically someone has to nominate a chair, we vote on the chair, and then after it's been voted on, it's kind of our process. And then it's the same for the co-chair.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
I thought that by charter, the mayor, whoever the mayor appoints to the boards that person is automatically a chair. And then the vice chair or co-chair would be chosen by the board members.
Great question. So there are two different enabling documents. So the city of South Fulton has a charter, which is our enabling document. It talks about how our mayor and council are supposed to be elected and organized and how they vote and what their roles are. And then there's a different ordinance that is the enabling document for the Zoning Board of Appeals. And that document says that the person that is nominated by the mayor doesn't vote, but it doesn't necessarily say that that person is automatically the chair. There's some language that we can use to clear it up some. I guess based on the fact that that person doesn't vote, it was assumed that person will automatically be the chair. But it doesn't technically say that. It technically says you have to nominate that person and they have to be elected. Okay. And I'm checking with my attorney to make sure I said that right. Okay.
Apparently they left the sentence out.
Do we have a vice chair for this board?
Not by this.
Matches? Okay. Also, it talks about different types of meetings, virtual meetings, regular meetings, and special call meetings. Due to the nature of this board, I don't anticipate that we're going to necessarily have a lot of special call meetings. But if there's ever an emergency or something pressing, or we defer something that's time sensitive, so we have to work out the details and come back sooner than our regular monthly meeting, we might have a special call. It talks about voting. It says that, a motion has to get majority vote to pass. It says that it has to get a second. It says that the chairman shall only vote in the case of a tie. It was not the chairman, the person nominated by the mayor will only vote in the case of a tie, so I have to change that. It says abstentions are only allowed in the case of a conflict of interest. It says that what we're not going to do is ex parte communication. So that means if someone comes to you in Publix or another grocery store and they say, hey, I want to talk to you about this case, what do you think about it? This is what I'm thinking about it. How are you thinking about voting about it? You're supposed to say, thanks, I'm glad that you're interested. Why don't you come to the ZBA hearing and we'll talk about it there. Ex parte communication. And it also says that we're going to follow Robert's Rules of Order. And it's with the understanding that nobody follows Robert's Rule of Order exactly perfectly to the T, but it is kind of how we're supposed to run the meetings. And that is the end of the procedures. You guys can vote on it now, but you can also take some more time to read through it and suggest edits if that's what you'd like to do also.
So you're asking us to vote on what you just presented?
Yeah, the Zoning Board of Appeals procedures.
I would recommend, and I'm not speaking for everybody, just for myself, clarity on a couple of things.
Okay, I can take some notes.
To me, it's a little, I don't wanna use the word illogical, but for the person appointed by the mayor not being able to vote and then not being able to be chosen, not necessarily being the chair. And I think that would run into a couple of issues, because you're saying that the enabling legislation for this board is different than all other boards for the, city of South Fulton, correct?
Well, so I'm familiar with the boards that I'm responsible for staffing, right?
Mhm.
So I'm familiar with the zoning board of appeals, and I'm familiar with the planning commission. And we've had this conversation about the planning commission too. I think eventually there's going to be a text amendment to the ordinance so that is clearer, but at this time, that's what it's written as.
Wouldn't it make sense to allow for time for it to be cleared? To me, it would make sense to be more, to allow for time for it to be cleared up before we made a decision on what because obviously we're operating on some rules, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the rules that we're operating are pretty much almost exactly what you just said, except for that choosing the chair part. And I'm not saying this because I am, I'm just saying it because to maintain order between the boards across the city of South Fulton. Like, for instance, let me ask you, is there another board for the city of South Fulton? Well, or should I direct that question to the attorney, that was enabled by another piece of legislation that follows like you said?
So the planning commission ordinance is written the same.
Mm-hmm.
I defer to the city attorney as he is familiar with more of the city boards than just the zoning ones.
Thank you. Some of the boards, first of all, there aren't many boards, but it just depends on the board. I think what happened was that it was assumed that the boards would follow the same structure as the mayor and city council, and that the chair would be a non-voting member, but that person would also be appointed by the mayor. And it just doesn't always get translated into the actual code of ordinances. And sometimes in this, the code of ordinances is slow to change. And so I think in this case, it would be okay for you all to make it a practice to elect the mayor appointed member as the chair, but to write it into your rules of procedure at this point would be contradictory to what's in the code of ordinances. And the code of ordinances would of course prevail over your rules of procedure, so there's really no reason of codifying it into your rules, even though you might have an understanding that that's what you do as a practice. And then hopefully in the future, we will be able to get that corrected in the code of ordinances.
Okay. Anybody else has any questions or wanna make a motion or?
Wait, can I mention one more thing?
Mhm.
So one other thing that I skipped a little bit is about the voting, is that the procedures say that we're supposed to vote by roll call vote. But that's also something that we can edit if you'd rather vote by, just a voice vote. I think the challenge is that, like, if we have a virtual meeting and everyone isn't in the same room, it might be more challenging to determine who said what. So that's a situation where it would be useful to have a voice vote. But that's one other thing I was gonna go into a little bit more detail about, so that as a board, you guys can think about how you wanna do the voting thing.
I'm of the opinion that we need to look at what's been presented, what's in the charter, what's in the ordinance, to make sure we all are clear, because I got even less clear when the attorney starts.
I did too, that's why I didn't say anything else.
So that's where I'm at. I don't wanna vote
The
on
code, the code of ordinances says that the board will nominate and elect its chair and co-chair. It does not say that the chair has to be the member that was appointed by the mayor.
For this board,
That's correct.
but does it say that for other boards?
It does say that for us. Some other boards are structured in that same manner. Some boards are structured that say that the mayor appointed member has to be the chair.
So do you know if it's like half and half, 6 and 3, what, I mean?
No, I couldn't.
The reason why I'm asking is because, at least when I recall when we were originally appointed, that was the thought across the board. So for every board, it was whoever is appointed, and again, I'm not just saying this because I was, but I'm just saying because practice. And it's been practiced since the day it started, since the city started. And I understand how things come up later that you didn't realize or somebody saw it, so there needs to be clarity. But from my understanding also, there is a charter review going on right now, or where they're looking at issues like this. So if we continued under regular practice until the review was actually done, would that be legal, or how would that work?
The charter, this is not in the charter. The enabling ordinance for the zoning board of appeals is not in the charter, it's in the code of ordinances. So the charter review commission would not be looking at this particular ordinance. It would be up to council to make this change for this board.
Okay. Are you saying we need to vote today on a chair and a vice chair, or a co-chair?
No, I think that you already have a chair in the.
Yeah, so we already have a chair and a co-chair. We were just voting on the adoption of the procedures. But we can defer that to have additional conversation if we like. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
at the will of the board.
It's just that when the time to elect the new chair and co-chair comes back up, which I think is at the beginning of the year, it'll be up to the board for someone to nominate who they want to be the chair, who they want to be the co-chair. It doesn't automatically fall to the mayor's appointee.
We've actually done that every January since we've been seated, so.
Do you wanna anybody wanna make a motion to review, hold, or?
So we will be making a motion on everything except the chair and co-chair.
Yeah, you can do that. You guys can make a motion according to what you like. You can take things out or change them. I made you guys some motion sheets, but I didn't put this particular item on there. The motion might say, like I make a motion to approve the zoning board of appeals procedures without the section concerning the chair and co-chair. So you can move it around however you like.
We can say the next meeting, or you can say a specific date, or just like.
Okay, I would like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that we hold the vote till the next meeting, or till, we just need to hold the, I think we need to, what, Mr. Carson said, look at what you included and look at what we have in the ordinance.
So does that mean you're making a motion to
Hold.
hold
The vote on adopting
item
these.
7A until the board has had time to review?
Yes.
Okay, so point of information, let's add a date or like a time. So let's say, so for example, something we would say is, I make a motion to hold a decision on the zoning board of appeals procedures into our next regularly scheduled meeting.
And I'm gonna tell you, the only question I would have about that is, would we have an opportunity to review those items between now and the next meeting? So that would mean that you would have to set up some time for us, or at least give us all the documents so that we can review it and be able to answer any questions that anyone would have before the next meeting. Now, if you don't put it before the next meeting, we could still do it the next meeting, but it could be the next meeting or the one after.
Yeah, so I can definitely commit at this time to emailing the board with your enabling ordinance. and a copy of the procedures, and I'll highlight the different sections so that they stand out to you, and you can go to them quickly without having to sift through the whole thing.
What day
You
is
can
our,
sift through the whole thing if you want to.
what day is our next meeting?
So your meetings are the third Thursday in October at 6 o'clock. So who has a
Is
calendar?
it the third Thursday of the month or third Thursday?
It'll be the 20th,
Third Thursday of the month.
Third Thursday of the month.
it'll be the 20th.
Is-
So the third Thursday in October. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but that's when it is.
So we're not gonna have a, we haven't got to the third Thursday of September.
Today is the
Today
third
is the
Thursday.
Today is the third. I was double checking, that's why I was asking. I didn't wanna ask out loud, cause I knew y'all gonna laugh at me. But, okay,
We're not laughing at you, we're laughing with you.
Wait,
yeah, that's what they feel. Okay,
It's the 20th.
does,
October 20th.
y'all think that's enough time, that's fine.
so, so you'll send us the enabling documents and the ordinance docs by when?
Monday?
Okay, so let me restate, Charles, restate that.
Seven,
I would like to, raise a motion that we hold the review of item 7A on the agenda for today until the next scheduled meeting, which will be Thursday, October 20th, 2022, to allow the board time to review the changes.
Second.
properly moved and seconded to hold, item 7A until the next meeting in October. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go. All right. So now we're gonna move to the fun part. And I just wanna make a quick note I know we have a good number of people here. And just for those who may not have been to one of our meetings before, I'm gonna give you a quick rundown on how they work. There's an opportunity for the applicant we first start off with staff explaining the individual, item that's on the agenda. And once staff does it, and we give, the applicant an opportunity to talk about, their stance on whatever their item is, they have 10 minutes to do that. But also opposing views, so they have 10 minutes as well. So if it's a group that wants to talk about, either for or against, you have 10 minutes total. So one of the things that I recommend, if there is a group of people that is either for or against an item, no matter what, we have 10 minutes. So if you hear things that are already said, there may be a person who can stand up and be the spokesperson and can say, all those that agree with me stand up, or something like that. But you just gotta be mindful that you have, there's a clock that's for and against is 10 minutes. The applicant doesn't have to take the full 10 minutes. They can do 2 minutes and then do a rebuttal of the 8 minutes that they have left, or however they flip it once they hear the other side. And then if it's minutes left, we will go until it's 10 minutes. Make sense? All right.
May I have a point of information?
Yes, ma'am.
So also, I neglected to mention that we have some new staff members, especially in community development. So may I introduce our new staff? Just really.
You know what? Sure, before we go. We'll do
Okay.
that first next time. Talk about
So, I've been here a while. My name is Marissa Jackson, senior planner. But we have a lot of really cool people in the room that help to make these things happen. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So I wanted to take some time to introduce some of our staff members. So Ms. Mosley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Latrice Mosley. I am the Development Services Manager for Community Development.
Okay. Ms. Campbell, my awesome coworker.
Thank you. I'm Nadia Campbell, a zoning plan reviewer, and that's it.
Okay.
Ms. Marissa, I'm not awesome.
Excuse me?
I'm not awesome.
She is awesome. She is awesome. Nadia brings me food, but Latrice brings me food too, so it's awesome. Okay, we have a city attorney, Mr. McClendon.
Ms. Marissa, I'm not awesome.
Excuse me? Okay. Ms. Campbell, my awesome coworker.
Reginald McClendon, Assistant City Attorney for the City of South Fulton.
We have communications, Ms. Jacqueline Howell.
Jacqueline Howe, Senior Communications Manager.
And we have the police, Mr. Nicholas Williams. Yeah, just so that, you know, we have more information on who's in the room, because it takes a team to get this stuff organized. Just wanted to say that, so.
Alright, so, first we would hear from a petition hearing for B 22-002, 4627 Lenard Drive. Request for variance to reduce the front yard setback from 50 feet to 34.9 feet. Staff?
Okay, so this was, a single-family home. It's located in Lockwood Estates in District 1. It's zoned R3, and maybe a year or so ago, the applicant submitted a building permit, to build a single-family home. The zoning ordinance for R3 requires that there's a 50-foot setback from the front, and so if I go to the curb of the street, and then I have to measure 50 feet back to where I can build the house. The applicant submitted some building permits. The building permits were rejected. And so the staff, the reviewers, went back and said, this does not meet the setback requirement. You need to send us a new site plan. The applicant sent a new site plan, and then it got approved. The new site plan showed the house 50 feet from the back of the street. And so the staff released the building permits. Somewhere down the line, during one of the inspections for construction, one of the building inspectors noticed that the house did not meet the setback requirement. They alerted staff and the applicant, and it was determined that the applicant should submit a variance since the home was very much already built at this time. The home isn't completely built. It doesn't have certificates of occupancy and all of that stuff that would allow someone to move in already. But as you can see, it has 4 walls, it has windows, it has a garage. This is kind of a timeline of the events of what happened. As you can see, it was originally submitted in March of 2021. This photo is here because it's the rear of the house. It allows us to see some sloping in the backyard. And it also allows us to see what the back of the home looks like, illustrate that it's already built. And then these are 2 site plans. So if we go here, okay, so if we go here, this is the 50-foot line. And then you can see that the house is already, this is what they originally submitted. And this is the 50-foot line, so you can see that the house goes over the line by 34.9 feet right here. This is what was originally submitted. The plan reviewer said this doesn't meet the requirements, you need to resubmit the plan. We went through our online permitting system, and this is what was approved. And so in the one that was approved by staff, the second version, the revision, we can see that this is the 50-foot line, 50-foot front setback right there. And this is the 50-foot line. You can see that the house is 50 feet from the back. And so I'm assuming probably what happened was somewhere between the permit being released and the house being built, the builder might have been looking at the wrong site plan or something, and it was built over the line. Here's a little bit more background. It's kind of a corner lot. It's on so this subdivision is Loch Lomond Estates. This is Loch Lomond Trail, and this is Lanark Drive. This house actually has frontage on Loch Lomond Trail. So this house points here, and the side yard of this house is facing Lanark Drive, and then this is Lanark Drive here, and then there's another house there. Next slide. And then, of course, we always have to talk about the zoning map and the future land use plan. You can see that this is zone R3. Everything around it is zone R3. What is not colored is part of the city of Atlanta. And then you can see that the future land use plan is suburban neighborhood, so it's also supposed to be residential. So staff recommendation is approval of the variance. So we recommended approval to reduce the front yard setback from 50 feet to 34 feet. As you can see, there's a very steep slope in the rear, so it would make it difficult to move the house back, even if we did make them rebuild it. Also, because of the slope is right there, you would like walk out of your back door and like down a hill, so that's kind of dangerous. The hardship criteria talks about topography, it talks about the appearance of the subdivision, it talks about not allowing them to get variances for things that are their fault. So like if someone subdivided this and like created the lot like this, then that's their fault, so we wouldn't give them the variance. But it looks like this lot was designed this way many years ago, when the plat was created. So we found, our findings of fact show that it does meet a lot of our hardship criteria. So that's kind of why we recommended approval on this one. And that is the end of my presentation, Chair.
All right. We will now go into public hearing. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing for case number?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go into public hearing for B 22-002 at 4627 Lenard Drive.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by motion by Mr. Carson, seconded by Mr. Mathis. All those in favor to go into public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we are now into public hearing for this case. Is the applicant here?
Yes, Marvin Arrington here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, all right, sir. Clark, got this.
Is there anywhere in particular you all want me to stand or?
Good, right there, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Again, my name is Marvin Arrington Jr. I'm an attorney, been practicing law for 26 years, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is E320 LLC. This particular lot is about 0.7 acres. And so we are seeking, our owner is seeking a variance from section 403.03 to reduce the required front yard setback from 50 to 34 feet. This request that is being made for the variance meets all of the criteria of section 808.09 of the zoning ordinance that's necessary for approval of a variance. And therefore we respectfully request that the variance be approved. In particular, the application of the setback in this case will create an unnecessary hardship for the owner and would not cause any detriment to the public. The strict enforcement of the setback would specifically creates an unnecessary hardship due to the property's topography. As we saw on the land, at the back of the home, you're required to have 10 feet. You're required to have level land for 10 feet. And so there's no way that this home could meet the 50-yard setback and provide the 10 feet that is required for exiting the home from the rear. Additionally, I don't know if you can go back a couple slides, please, Ms. Jackson. Maybe a couple more. Back to the one that showed that, there we go. As you'll see from this photo and this picture, there is a slope that goes down. That slope and that land there are wetlands. You see the black silk fence. And what, I'm not sure if it's up here, but there is a creek there. Hopefully you all can see that at the bottom. All of that land is wetland. And so that land is unbuildable. You cannot build a foundation or a structure on any of that land, nor can you build it on the ridge that comes down. Additionally, you cannot bring in fill dirt to fill in that wetland there. And so these conditions again create a hardship. There's just not enough room on this lot based upon this topography, based upon that creek, based upon the hill as we see there, the slope. The hardship is, well, the setback is unnecessary to serve the purposes of the zoning ordinance. And those purposes are, to provide for adequate open space, to provide desirable living conditions, provide for protection against flood. And the strict enforcement of the setback would contradict these goals. In particular, because to do so will require an unusual small and narrow home out of keeping with the rest of the homes in the neighborhood. It would also contradict with the zoning ordinance goal of protecting the property from flooding. If you were to build in that wetland area, which you can't build in anyway, it would subject the property owner to the property being flooded. So for these reasons, the full provision of the 50-foot front yard setback is not necessary to serve the purposes of the zoning ordinance. Additionally, there are special conditions and circumstances that exist which are peculiar to this property and which are not applicable to other land and other structures within the same district. This property is the only one that has this unique topography as you see there on the screen. Additionally, the literal interpretation of the provisions of the zoning ordinance would deprive the applicant of the rights commonly enjoyed by other properties within the same district. An example of this is the home next door, which is located within the front yard setback. I believe it only has I believe the house next door only has a 23-foot setback. And that is partially due because that home has similar topography in the back. And so if this variance is denied, the owner will be deprived of the rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the neighborhood. Additionally, the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the appellant. The owner did not cause this topography to be this way. The owner did not cause that creek to be there. The owner did not cause that slope and hill to be there. And so this is not from a result of the actions of the appellant. Granting the variance will not confer upon the appellant any special privileges that is denied by this zoning ordinance to other land structures or builders in the same district. Given the circumstances of the topography, nothing special is being granted that would be denied to others in this highly unique circumstance. Indeed, the home next door is located within the 50-foot front yard setback in a manner consistent with the minimal relief that we are seeking here today. This request is also limited to the extent necessary to alleviate the unnecessary hardship and not as a convenience to the appellant or to gain advantage or interest over any other similar property. The request to reduce the setback is limited such that just so that the home could be built. It does not go back any further. It had to meet the 10-foot yard, the 10-foot exit for the back of the home, and so they had to leave that home. The only place they could place the house is where it is placed now. And so, again, there's no advantage or convenience over any other similarly zoned property. And the relief, if granted, would be in harmony, as you heard from the staff recommendation, with the general purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance. If granted, protection of the property against flood and the encouragement of sustained neighborhoods and compatible housing types would be served. Adequate open space and streetscapes would be served, as the proposed setback is in keeping with the neighboring home, which is impacted with the same topographical hardship. If denied, these goals will be frustrated, and the relief that we are requesting, the granting of the variance, would serve and implement the purposes of the zoning ordinance. Of course, we would always, at the same time, reserve our constitutional objections as well. We do have a letter from Moore Engineering, Structural, and Geotechnical Services that we certainly can share with the board or others that confirms all of the things that I just said regarding the topography. It also talks about the soils and the inability, well, it is not appropriate or allowed to build a residence in a floodplain, nor to allow the residents to periodically be subjected to flooding. These floodplain soils are not suitable to support house loads. The slope is not stable and cannot support the house loads. The house must be founded in natural soil on a well-compacted field pad, which is where it was built. For these, and then it goes on to state, they recommend erring on the side of staying out of what appears to be a floodplain. No fill is to be placed in the floodplain. Further, it is recommended to avoid problems of unsuitable wet, soft soils and unstable slope by keeping the house footprint in the upper level in the good soils. Additionally, footprint must be approximately 5 to 8 feet from the crest of the slope in order to maintain stability, right? So you can't, again, bring that door all the way up to the edge of that slope. You can't build a retaining wall in the floodplain. That's not allowable either. If you were to move the house forward, the only thing that made sense given this topography, given this slope, given this creek, given those wetlands there was to move the house forward so that it fits with the neighbors and makes logical sense. Additionally, Governor Kemp issued an executive order allowing for independent inspection of lots similar to these. Lastly, I won't say lastly, but there are 6 other homes that are already within the 50-foot yard setback. 1410 Loch Lomond is 23 feet. 1465 is 40 feet. 1475 is 40 feet. 1680 Loch Lomond, that one actually appears to be out. That one would be 55, but then 1875.
Thank you, Mr. Arrington.
That's my 10 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Wow. All right, thank you so much.
I would like to request the applicant to let us just peruse that engineering report and your letter from the governor.
All right, while he's getting that together, we'll prepare for opposition. Oh, well, no, that was all support. He took all 10 minutes, so if anybody was here, I got you. It's going. All right, so now we're gonna have 10 minutes for anyone that is in opposition to this, and we'll start with the gentleman here in the red. Keeping in mind that there are other people that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. Oh, she has I apologize. She has the speaking cards, and we'll go in the order that the speaking cards, but keep in mind that you have a grand total of 10 minutes for everybody in opposition. So if one person takes all 10 minutes, yeah, that's how, I'm sorry, sir, that's how the rules are. So, all right, we'll start here. That's why I keep reiterating to people, if you hear something that somebody has already said, all right, let's go.
The first speaker against is, Ruth Anderson, C. Johnson. C is the middle initial, last name Johnson.
First of all, I'd like to give a little bit of history of Loch Lomond. I promise I won't take it out. Promise. One of the little history that has not been given here.
Mr. Johnson, we're gonna start over.
Oh.
Can you say your name and your address, please? I apologize, I didn't say it
I'm sorry.
before.
My name is Jewel Johnson. I reside at 4660 Orkney Lane in Loch Lomond. I've been there for 36 years. Loch Lomond was put together in 19 1959, when I was a little girl. There was a lot of things that occurred then that you cannot claim today. Because those numbers that was just drilled off about, you know, how far back the houses in different areas, those houses was built back in that area. We're in a new area now, so we can't even listen at that. Number one, the applicant knew that this was a distressed piece of property. He knew that. The applicant bought this property because this is what they do. This is a $1 billion company that actually bought this property knowing that it was distressed. And they went out to get a permit, and as this young lady here said the first time, it wasn't approved. Well, number one, when they did that, it said that it had to build 50 feet back from the property line. Okay, well, the builder knew that, but he built anyway. He broke the law. Let's stick with the law. I'm a very stickler for law. Then the next thing that he broke, when you pull your footing, you have to call in the inspectors to check that out to see if it's right. That didn't occur. He just kept building knowing that he was supposed to do that, and he did not do that. He broke our zoning law. So I promise you, if we stick with the law, you will not want to approve this. We have been talking about sidewalks. We cannot put sidewalks in where the property is too close to the streets. And I'm asking this board if they would please stay with the law, the zoning law, which I know that you will, because it does not matter what the applicants say, no matter what no one say, we have to stay with the law and what the law says. All the laws was broken. Then after that, what they said was, okay, if we don't get what we want, we're gonna sue. After you have broken all the laws, you're gonna say you're gonna sue, and you're gonna leave all the property up there that look real bad and cause problems in the community. Well, if the council votes to vote it down, they have to have them tear it down. So they have been feeding the community a bunch of stuff that's really bad. And I got one last thing, Pete, I want to say. The last thing is that the applicants just stood up here and told us today that you can't build on wetland, and I agree. But anything is buildable if you call in the Corps engineers. I have a piece of property right next to me that is the same situation as what we're talking about right now. I have explored that, and they have told me that if I call in a Corps of Engineers to make the property where it can be buildable, because anything can be buildable. I'm gonna shut up, Pete, so I'll take whatever's left, because there's some other stuff
Hold on,
I
Mr.
need to
Pete.
get out.
Stop. How much time do we have remaining?
Ms. Johnson?
6 minutes and 26 seconds.
I told you, you get your time.
All right, I was just trying to, for awareness.
Oh, no, sorry, we have 3 minutes and 30
Write it down.
seconds left.
3 minutes.
Because we gotta come back after.
6 minutes has passed.
6 minutes fast. I
Oh,
got 3 minutes.
So he has 3 minutes.
Yeah. 3
I'm
minutes
gonna
and
make mine
13.
real short.
3 minutes? Yes, sir. All right.
All right.
Hold on. She's saying who's next.
Oh, yeah, we do have 6 minutes left. I can't count, I'm sorry.
We have how many?
6 minutes and 22 seconds left.
Okay, who's the next speaker?
P.N. Berry.
That's me.
All right. Mr. Barrett, we have 6 minutes and. No. I'm letting him know that it's 6 minutes left total for whoever needs to speak behind him. Hold on before you start. I want to make sure they're ready.
Well, I need to do something first.
Okay. So we have 6 minutes and
22 seconds.
This is
6 minutes and 22
That's
seconds.
what I'm gonna say.
All right, sir. Mr. Pete, ready to go.
All right. Hello, great city. Let me take his mask off. We're great city of South Fulton. My name is T.N. Berry. I reside at 4585 Orkney Lane, Southwest 30331.
Mr. Bear, you behind.
All right, I'm talking to you, not her. All right, come over here.
Watch out for the porch, please.
I won't step on it. Cause I can sue, I'll sue you.
Please don't do that.
All right. Again, my name is Percy Berry. I reside at 4585 Orkney Lane, Southwest 30331 of the great new city of South Fulton. I'm a retired real estate broker of Georgia, also a retired member of Atlanta Metro Association of Home Builders and past president of Loch Lomond Estates. We are here to show you that the board should deny landowner E320 LLC a variance for hardship. The hardship was created by E320 LLC themselves. We're gonna start at the beginning. Some of this Ms. Jewell has already spoke about. E320 LLC purchased the land October 23rd, 2020 at a price of $35,600, which gives them a $50,000 plus cushion for land development. That's using the formula of 20 to 25% land value, and they had a contract for $480,000. I'm just gonna round it off to $500,000. So that gave them at least a $50,000 cushion to develop the land. Land permit was granted on June the 2nd, 2021. Work stoppage, August the 10th, 2021. Public hearing, August the 2nd. Foundation survey for Mr. Hall was January 8th, 2021. Under section 8, procedures and permits, hardships, section 8, I won't read that out. All right, I'll read it. The application of ELC E320 LLC purchased the land under the basic formula of a building. I've already mentioned that. That would go under section 8 of 8809. The next part, under section D, under the same thing of a hardship, that there were no special conditions. All the houses on Landmark Drive has a stream running through it on both sides of the street, which means that all the homes that are there now had to have their lots dressed in order to put a home on them. They did not get a hardship case.
Sure did.
But every house on that street has that stream running either behind it or in front of it. So that was that. This is a convenience. Under hardships, section F, this is a convenience.
Okay, pause for a second. I'm just letting you know, we're down to 2 minutes and
All
there's
right.
another card, so I just wanna, I'm not stopping you, I'm just letting you know it's 2 minutes left.
All right. I wanna go back to where the plots were.
You want me to go back to the application?
No.
I wanna go back to look at the plot.
That's all,
The two
Pete.
plots. Well, one, this right here was turned in for the variance. This was dated January the 8th, 2021, but the variance was only applied in May. The permit was done in June. So they knew in the beginning what they were doing.
Yes, they did.
They did not go by this plan, which was turned in to get the permit on 4/29. This is what they turned in to get the permit. But a whole 3 months before, they had this plan. And if you look at the paperwork that they turned in for variance, look down at the bottom of it and you'll see January 8th, 2021. And also the meeting was a joke. The meeting held on August the 2nd was a joke. Nothing was mentioned about a home hardship. One person said that you could only get a variance for hardship. Mr. Ayrton said that we think COVID was a hardship. He did not mention anything about they were applying for in his form.
All right. Now, that was the 10 minutes for the other side. All right.
And this is all of what I was gonna say.
All right. You know you took everybody's time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Is this a public meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Why is
Well-
the front door locked and nobody's up there to let people in? We've been up there for about 30 minutes trying to get in. And other people before us left. We saw some cars that we knew the people who were live in the neighborhood. Left here because they couldn't get in.
Well, I honestly don't know the answer to that. And I think he's going to check on that right now.
Well, there's nobody at the front door. There's
Well,
nobody
He's the
up
only
there.
somebody who can be at the front door.
No, he's not. He's the attorney.
Oh, I'm talking about the officer.
Oh, I wasn't talking about him. I was talking about him. All right, so because both time limits have closed out, both sides have used all 10 of their minutes. I'll entertain a motion to come out of public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we end public hearing for B 22-002 at 4627 North South.
All right, is there a second? Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor of coming out of public comment, please say aye. All those opposed? All right, we are officially out of public hearing. However, we do have an opportunity for our board members to ask questions of both sides and or to staff. Does anybody have questions for anyone? Or should I just start and go straight down the line?
I would ask Ms. Johnson a question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mathis?
Ms. Johnson, you said that the other homes that are beyond the 50 feet setback were built years ago and consequently should not be considered. Can you tell me why, or is it just because?
I didn't quite hear your
When you
question.
stood up, you said that the addresses Mr. Arrington listed that were already beyond the 50 feet setback should not be taken into consideration.
I
Why
said that
do you feel
because I started out by trying to give a little bit of history about La Loma, because it was built in 1959, when your coding and your zoning was totally different back then than what we have right now. And for years, we were under the county, where a lot of things have kind of changed from where the county was, when we were under the county. Now we are a city, and we do have some changes, and I hope we're gonna get even more changes that's gonna be beneficial to both the applicant and the citizens, because we really need that. If we don't, we're gonna run into more and more trouble, and I've been beating the pounding the pavement about amending our zoning and our land use plan. So we don't have these kind of things. And, I am very interested, I've taken classes in GIS land use planning. I'm not saying I know everything, but I've been very active in the community, I've taken classes, and this is a case that we have got to follow the law.
Yes, ma'am, I was wondering if you were speaking in terms of aesthetically, I mean, this, we're called a zoning board of appeals for the simple reason that
Aesthetically,
people are
that
appealing what
property
is
should not
already
have been
set
built
in,
there.
as a standard.
Okay,
So I thought you meant that aesthetically, it would be different than the other homes that are already beyond the 50 feet.
It is aesthetically different. Let me tell you a little bit more about Loch Lomond. Didn't get a chance to see.
Well,
it.
Ms. Jewell, with all due respect, can we just, and only because we're not in public comment anymore and we are asking questions, if you can just stick to answering the question that's
Okay,
asked.
aesthetically, it will not meet that because in Loch Lomond, there is no house in there that has the same floor plan. No house. And the aesthetics of the outside blend in and meets very well with each other.
Any other questions, Mr. Mathis? All right, I'll just go down the line and make it easy. Mr. Carson?
Mr. Chairman, can we ask a question of someone who hasn't spoken, or we have to ask a question of those who have spoken?
That is a very good question. I would assume, Mr. Attorney, I don't wanna voice my assumption until, the question was, in our asking questions after the public hearing, is it allowable to ask a question of a person who did not speak during the public hearing?
If it's a staff member.
So only a staff member that did not speak, but as far as the general public that is here, we can't ask them a question
No.
if they did not speak.
All right.
There you go.
So then I have a question for Commissioner Arrington. Can you address the issues that were raised with respect to when the house was built, to when you apply for the permit, so forth and so on? Can you address those? Because there's a suggestion that you guys built the house, didn't take into consideration what needed to be done, then you're claiming after the fact that there's a hardship. So can you address that?
So thank you. I was not involved when the initial things happened. What I can say to you is that the variance should have been applied for on the front end, and it was not. So, you know, I cannot say to you what would happen if we go back in time. Where we are now is we have a house that is built. We've applied for the variance. The variance should have been applied for on the front end. It wasn't. But we are where we are now. The topography is the topography. The slope is the slope. And so I guess what I will say to you is that even if this site plan on the left was approved, when you get out there, if you look at that site plan on the left, it shows the house in the floodplains. So if you are a builder and you go out there to build and you see a house is in the floodplains, you know you can't build it there. And so you have to adapt. You have to accommodate for the real life topographical situation and on this property. And so the variance application was not applied for until May of 2022, May of this year. Stop work order went in, as he stated on the date that he stated in August. We met with the community back in December, and then we met with them again in August. And so it's a 5-bedroom, 3.5 home that will have, you know, all of the accoutrements and things to fit in with the neighborhood. It'll be landscaped properly and it will look nice and will fit in.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one question for Mr. Pete. Were you at the August 2nd, 2022 meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so according to what we have here before us, it says that the attendees were concerned about property values and the precedence of the approval was set in the subdivision. So is this an issue of property value? Do you guys believe that this house will not meet whatever the standards are in Loch Lomond?
If you read further on the staff recommendations, it said we also was concerned about, let me take this off. We were also concerned about it setting a precedence I said that way, for the use, which it would, not only for Loch Lomond, this will set a precedence for the entire city of Greater South Fulton. Because this E320 LLC is the largest buyer of distressed and tax delinquent property. They have attorneys there, in-house attorneys. They have people that can read all those little wiggly lines. They knew when they bought the property. They could look at the rule number 101 real estate. When property change hands, you should have a title search. When you do a title search, they will come out and stake off the lot. And I would like to correct you on one thing that you said. She said, measured from the curb. You know, nobody measures from the curb.
That's right,
You measure from your property line.
on the property line.
And the property lines were marked. I have pictures of where the property lines are. But it's a concern to you, not only Loch Lomond. It's a concern to this board. If you approve this, you throw out all your section 808 because you're approving it to a company, not an individual. You're approving it to a company that knew what they were doing. This wasn't a oops, a mistake. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Patterson.
I have no questions.
None? Okay. Ms. Harris?
Yes, for Attorney Arrington, the engineering report that you submitted states that the engineers examined the lot by reviewing, Google Earth images. So the engineer actually didn't come to the property to examine it physically?
As far as I know, they did actually go to the property and review it.
Well, it says here, an examination of the lot and review of Google Earth images.
Yeah, I think this examination of the lot and the review of the Google Earth images, I believe, Ms. Harris, that they did both of those.
Okay.
And I believe that they did both of those.
All right, thanks for that clarification. And the submission from Governor Kemp basically says that due to the pandemic, there's gonna be limited staffing to do inspections. But what does that have to do with whether or not this variance should be granted?
So basically that references, the inspection. I think someone referenced was not done on the footings. That basically during the pandemic, the cities, the counties, municipal governments were shut down, not going out. And so, the governor issued an order to allow builders to, in order for them to continue to build, to allow them to have independent inspections done, and that is what was done in this case.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it, Ms. Harris? Or you got another question?
Well, I just want to say to Ms. Jewel Johnson, you indicated several times that they broke the law.
Yes.
Well,
But
let's
this is
phrase
why-
it in a question, so.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, you understand that this is why people can ask for variances that's why people ask for variances. Sometimes they, not necessarily they broke the law, but people are entitled to ask for variances, that's all I wanna say.
But to
Okay.
continue building when you know
Ms.
something's wrong, that's breaking the law.
All right, so I have a question and I wanna run it back. Can you go back to the slide with the dates? Cause that seems to be a point of contention as far as how they got from one plan to another. So you're saying they submitted a plan, Ms. Jackson, and then when they submitted that plan, how did they get there? Can you explain to us again how they got the building permit on the current plan that they started building on?
Yeah, so we have an online permitting system, and what happens is you submit plans, and then if the plans are incorrect or staff has comments or questions, the plan gets rejected, and then it goes back to the applicant, and the applicant has to upload a new or a different plan. And so the applicant uploaded the plan showing 34.9 feet. Staff said this doesn't meet the setback requirement. The applicant uploaded the second feet showing the 50-foot setback. And then in the second cycle, it was approved.
So the 50-foot, you said in the second cycle, so the 50-foot was approved.
The 50-foot was approved.
So how did they get the building permit for the 34?
They didn't get the building permit for the 34, they got the building permit for the 50 in the second review.
Okay, so they
So
got a
the
building
first-
permit for the 50
Yes.
after they got rejected for the 34.
Yeah.
And with their building permit for the 50, they started building the 34.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
I
it.
just wanna be clear as I'm asking.
yes,
So that's what they did.
yes.
Now, I'm not arguing whether or not it should've, what should've, could've, would've been, but I'm just trying to make sure we got it. So the 34 was rejected, the 50 was approved. They started building on the 34 anyway.
Yes.
And so then they came back and they got the stop order. Then they applied for the variance.
Yes.
And that's, I'm not asking a question for you.
You got the
promise
dates
you,
wrong.
but, hold up, no. I'm asking her, she'll tell me if they're wrong. But then that's how we're here today.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's my question. Are any further questions from the board? All right, is there a motion?
I move that the request for the variance for V 22-002 be denied.
Is there a second? All right, Ms. Harris's motion fails for a lack of a second. Is there an alternative motion?
I have a comment for the record, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
For those of you that may be, attending these zoning board of appeals meetings for the first time, as we've been on this board for quite some time, there's been a lot of, adjustments and things made based on the code, based on the new, zoning ordinances. Because the city is new, the city was under the county. So some of our decisions that we've made in the past have been based on certain hardships and, you know, we take in consideration, at least I've taken consideration, if a subdivision was built 20, 30 years ago, and there's a change or something that needs to be made to something that's current, then, I take that under, you know, if we're talking about a house, we've made decisions where there've been multiple houses, where, a subdivision was built, 20 years ago, and then there was some difference in the topography and different things were changed, and we had to make adjustments accordingly. So I just want that for me, to be in the record that I make this statement, before I make this motion. And Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that, V 22-002, 4627 Leonard Drive be, approved.
There's a motion or approval. Is there a second? All right. There's, motion fails for a lack of a second. All right, so we have an item on the agenda that we need to dispose of. We have currently failed a denial, and we currently failed for an approval. Is there an alternative motion? Because we could delay it, we could approve with conditions, we can deny with conditions, there are options, but we have to dispose of 7B. And as the chair, I can't make a motion.
Well, it's in District 1, so I would defer to Mr. Carson to take the lead.
Well, Mr. Carson just made a motion to approve.
You want me to make
Let's
another
try it
motion?
again and see what happens.
I mean, we've already moved it, we've already delayed this how many times? Once from the last meeting,
Mhm.
to delay it again from what would we delay it again from, Mr. Chairman?
I'm just offering options as we have to dispose of it, we have to do something. So there needs to be a motion with a second and vote it up or down.
Mr. Chair, since we haven't been able to get a motion, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Pete, is that right?
It's Pete, everybody calls me Pete.
What would you like to see happen on this lot?
Deny, and I would like to answer,
When I,
Well,
her question
let
is
me
yes.
rephrase it, Mr. Pete.
Yes, I would like to see it denied,
okay,
because,
Mr. Pete,
denied.
trust, okay.
Mr. Pete, let me try this from another angle. You already heard a motion from the board to
Right.
deny and didn't get second. You heard a motion from the board to approve and didn't get second.
Right.
Mr. Pete, you think it might be, beneficial, to suggest something other than deny? You made a comment initially, I paid very good attention to you. You made a comment that their pre-meeting was adjourned. Perhaps there could be another meeting where you guys could get on the same page or some compromise. I mean, I'm just curious. I live in District 3.
All right. Could you go back?
Mr. Pete, we can't
No,
do that.
no,
We
no.
need a simple, Mr. Pete,
That's
listen,
the answer
Mr.
to this
Pete.
question.
I know, but I'm just making sure you understand. His
Yes.
question is, do you think you could come back? So that's a yes or no question.
Yes, I could come back. Yes, I could come back.
And, okay.
You got a question?
No.
Having heard that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, that we table this.
Point of order, can I ask a question? So if we're gonna ask that, Mr. Pete, should we ask that of the party representing Lennar? I mean, cause they may not.
You
that
can
may
ask
not be
whatever you wanna ask.
Well, once you start the motion, you can, so if you're
Well,
gonna,
I will take back the motion, and again, this is in District 1, and I've been on this board for 6 years, and if something comes up in District 3, I take the lead. So you have the floor, Mr. Carson.
Right, so I'm not, so my Commissioner.
Well, I think that, we have several members of the community here. I think there are some that are opposed to it, and I think that there are some that are for. My understanding is that they had a community meeting over the weekend and that there was a vote. And the president is here, and I'm sure he could talk, and I don't know if the attorney would allow him to talk or not. Mr. Attorney?
No, sir.
No, sir. My understanding is that the community vote was 28 to 20. And there were 28 in support of the staff recommendation and approval of the variance, and then there were 20 opposed.
okay. Mr. Carson, do you have a motion?
Again, I go back to the motion that we approve B 22-0024627.
Okay. Is
That's
there a
my motion.
second? All right, fails for a lack of a second. Is there any other motion for this item?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that this item be tabled so that the two parties could talk further and come to a consensus on this, since it seems to be divided right down the middle, 28-20, which is a virtual tie.
Is there a second? All right. Maybe we do it a different way. We apparently are not going to deny it. We are not going to pass it, but then we are not going to hold it. All right, board, it's, yes, ma'am.
I don't know who to ask the question.
Ask your question and the best person will answer.
Okay.
That's staff or on the board, or attorney.
The question is regarding the timeline. And if, upon the clarification that the request was made for 34.9, it was denied, it was submitted for 50, it was accepted, and then the builder proceeded to move forward with the 34.9, which was denied. My question is there an option to allow the passing of the modification, but there be a fine or something levied against?
I'm sorry, can you restate the end of that?
Is there a option, if we can do a conditional approval, is there an option to say that, the question I have is regarding precedence. So I don't want there to be a precedent, so I'm trying to understand how do you prevent any kind of precedent that would be unfavorable to the city of South Fulton.
So I'm going to defer to the land use attorney who represents us in litigation.
Thank you. Reginald McClendon, Assistant City Attorney. If the variance is approved, then there will be no fine. It will be legal, what they've built.
So we'll rephrase the question for you. She's asking, or you're just saying, if it's approved at all, there could be no fine? Okay.
Are you asking if this board can levy a fine?
No, if the city of South Fulton, because if the question.
No, he's saying no.
Okay, thank you.
In certain circumstances, can the chair make a motion? I mean, they told me no, but just in case, 'cause, I mean, we've gone through all the motions and there is no second.
No.
All right, maybe one more time. One more time. Is there a motion for item number 42-002? Because if there is no motion, we cannot go to the next item. It is now 7.
No.
Yes, sir. Hold on.
Can I just state, for the edification of the board, that the ordinance governing this board says that the zoning board of appeals shall decide the appeal within a reasonable time, but in no event more than 60 days from the date of the hearing. So if you all wanted to defer this action, you will have that amount of time to make a final decision.
All right, so we'll try it again. Is there a motion for item number 42, B22-002?
I move that.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, hold on. With all due respect, Ms. Harris has the
Go
floor.
ahead, Ms. Harris.
Yeah, I move that B 22-002 be,
Held.
held until no later than 60 days from the date of today, which is September 15th, 2022.
Point of information. So can I please have some additional clarity? Are we deferring to the October meeting or to the November meeting?
Well, he says up to 60 days, so he says we have up to 60 days, correct?
That's correct.
So she's saying up to 60 days from today. There is none, so I would think that it will fall on the next meeting.
Okay.
Is that not correct? If the item
I
is,
think just for clarification, I think we should move to defer it to a meeting in particular.
okay, Ms. Harris,
Just so staff knows when to put it back
Be
on the
prepared.
agenda.
I move that V 22-002 002 be held until the next meeting of the zoning appeals board.
Okay. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All right, properly moved by Ms. Harris and seconded by Ms. Patterson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this item is held.
Mr. Chair, what was the date of the next meeting?
October 20th.
October 20th. Yeah. All right, we're moving on to item 7C, which is item number B22-003, 6818 Mancha Street.
Mr. Chair, you did have a question there.
Yeah, while I appreciate your regulation, I'm trying to get clarification. You've had here all this back and forth. What is the conclusion?
That this item will be reheard in the October meeting.
Okay. Very
Yes, sir. All right. All right, staff, next item.
Mr. Chair, can we add to the procedure, purchasing of the clock, so we'll know how much time we have left? Because I certainly would have reserved some time.
Sometime, absolutely. I thought about that myself. All right.
Thank you for
Where-
hearing us.
All right. Not right now, because we gotta go to the next one. We got people waiting for 2 more items.
Watch out.
Well, you have to ask her after the
Ms.
meeting.
Johnson, you heard me say I live in District 3. District 1 ain't no thing going on in the city of South Florida.
So what we're gonna do, all right, we're gonna go ahead and go to the other 2. All right?
He should've took the lead then.
He did, he said it twice. All right. All right, staff, please, on to the next one.
So, our next case is B22003, a request for a variance at 6818 Marshall Street. So, the applicant applied for a variance. I have an addendum to the presentation actually. So initially, we thought that the gazebo was gonna be 4 feet from the property line. We had a call with the applicant maybe 2 days ago to get some more information from her concerning her project, and it turns out that the gazebo is actually 8 feet from the property line. It's 4 feet from the fence, but the fence was put an additional 4 feet into the property line so that it was in line with the neighbor's fence. So imagine that this is 8 feet. So the site is zoned CUP, which is our community unit plan. It's like our version of a PUD. You might be familiar with PUDs, planned unit developments in other jurisdictions. And so the development standards are based on an ordinance specifically for this site that was approved by the Fulton County Board of Commissioners because this subdivision was established before we became a city. And here is a photo of the gazebo. We were able to get some snapshots from the applicant. And basically, again, they're asking for a variance. The ordinance for the subdivision said that things have to be 20 feet from the rear property line, but the gazebo is 8 feet from the rear property line and 4 feet from the rear fence. This is a summary of events. Sorry, it's kind of small. Basically, the gazebo was a gift from the applicant's family. We had a conversation with her to understand the situation. She said that there was a death in her family. Yeah, she said that there was a death in her family. She went away for a little while. The gazebo was a gift as like kind of a tribute to her husband. They were planning to have some outdoor space because after the global pandemic hit and everything. And so she went away. When she came back, there was a gazebo, and it was this gesture of love from her family. Just to add some context, basically, sometime after the gazebo was built, code enforcement went out to the site, saw that it was not in compliance with the setback requirement, and so the applicant submitted a variance. They are currently in code enforcement board right now, and the decision from code enforcement board is gonna be based on the conclusion of this variance request. So here's some context to get us situationally oriented. This is Old National Highway. So down here is Jonesboro Road, and up here is, if you go north, that's like where the Walmart and everything is. And so it's in this subdivision here called Heritage Park. And then looking at our documents, you can see that it's currently zoned community unit plan. And then you can see that the future land use is suburban neighborhood 2. And so you can see that this is the home. You can see that this is the gazebo, and it's kind of positioned here at the site. And again, it's 4 feet, as I mentioned earlier, it's 4 feet from the fence, but 8 feet from the property line. And the applicant gave us some additional photos. This is a picture of the gazebo standing towards the house. And staff recommendation is approval based on the findings of fact in the staff report. And I guess that kind of comes from the idea that our ordinance in general, in the development standards, say that applicants are allowed to have accessory structures. So you can have a shed, you can have a gazebo, you can have a deck, something like that to help you enjoy your backyard. So in most other types of subdivisions or homes are gonna have some type of an accessory. It's just part of having a yard and owning a home. So I guess the findings of fact are just reflected on the fact that other lots are gonna be able to have these. So staff recommendation is approval and to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 8 feet, so that should be keep for gazebo. And that concludes our presentation.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to go into public hearing on item number V22-003?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we go into public hearing on that item.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Properly moved by Mr. Mathis and seconded by Ms. Patterson to go into public hearing for this item. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, as mentioned before, for the remainders, we have 10 minutes, for each side. You don't have to take all 10 minutes at once. If you want to do your 10 minutes, do some time, reserve time for rebuttal, you can do that. Otherwise, once time is up, that is it. Who's the applicant? All right, come on up. Please state your name
Watch
and
out for the court, please.
Okay. We would definitely want to.
your name and address.
Sure. I am Ashley Turner. I'm actually speaking on behalf of the applicant, which is my bonus mom, Tanya. I was gonna give you her stage name, Tanya Shields Turner. And the address is 6818 Manchester Street. And so I'm just kind of here, like this young lady spoke to just kind of give some context on the actual gazebo. Ooh. So the gazebo was a gift from my bonus mom, from family. And it was in, like she said, it was for my late father that passed away in 2019. And it was something that they always spoke about. My father was a musician, my bonus mom sings. And they wanted to have something where they could have family and friends come. They always gave what we call the no-name bar, which is what they would have, and it would just be like a concert at the house for everyone. Anyone that knows my father knew that was all he talked about having, so that him and his wife and family and friends could gather to have it. Thank you. Like the young lady stated, it was a gift from family. My mother travels a lot for work and also for singing for her gigs. And while she was away, some of her family members decided that, hey, we want to go ahead and give this to her because she was having such a hard time getting through the passing of my father. Sorry, I'm crying. I don't know if any of you have ever lost a parent or you have ever lost a significant other, but your life is completely changed forever. So being able to have this gazebo gives her a little piece of him, and I see there every time we're at the gazebo. She just had a birthday celebration, and it was a big birthday for her 60th, and he wasn't there for her. But to be able to have that gazebo and to be able to share with family and friends meant a lot to her. So I'm asking that you guys approve this variance for her so that she can keep a piece of him with her.
Is there anyone else in support of this application? All right, is there anyone against this application?
No,
Nope.
no, sir.
I'm assuming you don't need the rest of your time.
No.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to come out of public hearing for this item?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we end public hearing for V22-003.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved by Mr. Carson and seconded by Mr. Mathis to come out of public hearing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, are there any questions? I'll do the go down the line again. I'll start with Ms. Harris this time. Is there any questions for the applicant or staff?
Yes, so someone actually came and built this on the property, it wasn't moved in?
No, so the family had someone that they knew that, of course, built. They had them come in and actually build it for her as a gift. I can't speak to what the conversation was or anything like that. I'm not really sure. I just know I was looped in because I had the extra key to the house. So I was the one that basically, was there to let everyone in to do whatever needed to be done. But I can't speak to any specifics.
Sure. So how long did it take them to build this, do you know?
It was about a week that they took to build it. They're pretty fast. And she, like I said, she travels a lot. She's typically gone for days on end, so she wouldn't have known anything about it.
And she wasn't aware that she had to have a permit from the city before building?
Again, I can't speak to those specifics because she didn't know that this was happening. It was gifted to her, so I'm not sure if she knew or not. I'm pretty sure if she did know, she would have had everything in place, but because it was gifted, again, I can't speak to those specifics.
Right, and I think, Melissa, did you say that this was the only one in the neighborhood so far?
I didn't say it was the only gazebo in the neighborhood.
Okay. Do you know whether or not there are others like this in your neighborhood?
I'm not sure, ma'am, no. I know there's, gazebos, but I'm not sure if they're built like that one specifically.
I see. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mathis?
Do the neighbors behind you on the other side of the fence have a problem with it? I mean, they're not here, so I would assume they don't, but I'd just like to hear from the floor.
I don't think that they do. A lot of her neighbors were at her 60th birthday party, so I can't really speak to where exactly they stay. I do know that some neighbors were at the 60th birthday party and no one seemed to have an issue at the time.
I just noted that they did have a meeting on July 16th, the public meeting, and no one attended.
Yeah, I saw that.
Just FYI.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Mathis?
No, sir.
Nope. Ms. Patterson?
I had the same notation that you just made, that there was a, opportunity for public participation, on July 16th. It looked like there were no, attendees that expressed either side, so.
From my understanding, there wasn't. She did let me know about the meeting, but from my understanding, no one showed up.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Carson?
Can you explain, this for Ms. Jackson, can you explain why code enforcement is waiting on a decision on it? I didn't quite understand that.
So basically, I think, what the applicant said to me is that so basically there's a code enforcement case and the judge from code enforcement said, what I want you to do to resolve this and go and apply for a variance and let the zoning board of appeals make a decision, because it's the zoning board of appeals decision. And so basically that's where we are.
And, so the shed, what is it, gazebo, it can't be moved 12 feet in. Is it
Yes,
on the ground?
it's pretty rooted down in the ground.
So it can't be moved an additional 12 feet. And what would that, did we look at what that would look like if it was moved to the additional 12 feet?
I don't have any like drawings or projections of what that would look like at this time.
All right, that's it for me.
All right. Any further questions? All right, at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve item 322-004.
Three.
I apologize. I'm trying to get the meeting over.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly motioned by Mr. Mathis and seconded by Mr. Carson to approve this motion. I'm sorry, approve this item. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're approved. All right, moving right along. Staff, we are going to read item number B 22-004, 1001 Great Southwest Parkway. Request to exceed the maximum building height of 100 feet in the industrial zoning district M1 by 15 feet and to allow additional flexibility in the building materials allowed per the Fulton Industrial Boulevard overlay. Staff?
So, last case tonight. So, context, this is on Great Southwest Parkway, which is the cross street from Cascade if you leave out of here. It is a bottling plant that's managed by Coca-Cola. They have a new automated storage and retrieval system. So basically, I Googled it, and there's like bottles in this thing, and then they're stored here, and then you like press a button or something, and the bottles come out, and it helps them to bottle the products, basically. And our applicant will explain that better, of course.
I hope so.
So it's currently zoned industrial. The future land use is industrial, it's part of an industrial park. It's in the Fulton Industrial Overlay. And like the introduction said, it's zoned M1. And in the Fulton Industrial Overlay, the maximum height is 100 feet. And in order for this bottling company machine to fit inside of the building, they need to have 115 feet because it's tall. So we're going to have this really tall building, and because of that, they also need another concurrent variance to change the materials that are allowed. If we have a lot of brick, it can be heavy and it can be dangerous, and so the applicant was asking for additional flexibility in building materials, and again, you'll hear more about that from the applicant. As I mentioned earlier, this is Cascade Road, and this is the bottling company, and we are over here somewhere. And then you can see the future land use is gray. That means that the future land use is industrial. And then here, our map is being updated. But here you can see that it's purple, and so that means that it's zoned industrial. And I was able to take some photos to kind of see, so you can get an idea of what it looks like around there. So this is the front yard of the building. This is the gate you have to use to get in there, and this is facing Great Southwest Parkway. And then this is driving past the facility on Fulton Industrial Boulevard. These are some proposed elevations from the applicant. And so you can see that the rest of the facility is remaining fairly flat. And this is the area where the storage item, the storage machine or whatever will go. So you can see that only this is the part that's going to have the additional height. It's not going to be the whole thing. And then here's kind of an aerial view that was provided by the applicant. And again, the rest of the building is going to be fairly similar to the surroundings, just this area is going to be additional height. And again, this is what's already there, and then this is what they're adding to the site. And staff is recommending with the following conditions. They are in their staff report. If you go to the staff report, there are some, so in the Fulton Industrial Overlay, it says that they have to have certain percentages of each building type. And so basically that's what they're looking for. If I go to that page. So it's on the last page of the staff report. And so basically we're recommending approval based on the findings of fact because the automatic storage and retrieval system is kind of a necessary item for their business type, and based on their business type, it is something kind of unique to the area. So the staff conditions are that we're recommending a 40% type A material, so basically what we're saying is that the rest of the facility still has to abide by the overlay. It's just the one part where the automatic storage and retrieval system is going that is allowed to be higher and allowed to have variation on materials. We are near the airport, so we recommended a condition that this is in compliance with FAA rules. And then we also added another condition saying that the roofs have to have screenings or other architectural features that are approved by the director if they're viewed from the street. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. All right, applicant, please state your name and all other stuff you're supposed to say.
I'll make a motion.
I don't really do. I'm sorry, it's been a long night. I make a motion, I don't make a motion.
I move
Go
that,
ahead, Ms. Harris.
I move that, public comment be open for B 22-004.
Second.
All right, properly moved and second to go into public comment for B 22-004. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, there you go, Ms. McCauley.
Great, thank you very much. My name is Michelle McCauley. I work with,
Wait.
sorry.
Okay, and then point of information, sorry, can you remind me who made the motion to open public comment?
Ms. Harris opened the motion and Mr. Carson seconded.
Thank you. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, great. Good evening, my name is Michelle McCauley. I work with Gaskins LaCroix. We're located at 3475 Corporate Way in Duluth, Georgia. Here tonight on behalf of our client, Ms. Haskell, who is under contract with Coca-Cola to do an industrial expansion project that we're excited to bring to Fulton Industrial. Go to the next slide, please. You can go to the next slide. Some of this is a repeat of what Ms. Jackson has said. This is the property. It's located at the corner of Fulton Industrial Boulevard and Great Southwest Parkway. Because of its location, it is within the Fulton Industrial Overlay District. So these requirements that we are seeking variances from is from the overlay district. We go to the next section. This is the zoning map. As you mentioned earlier, the property is zoned industrial. It's surrounded by other properties that are all zoned industrial. The next land use for this property is also industrial. These are the two variances that we are seeking. One is to exceed the district height of 100 feet to allow for the building of an automated storage and retrieval system. This is an this will be a portion of the building where there won't be people working. It's basically a wagon system that allows them to add additional storage to their facility. It's all automated. In order to get enough clear height on the building, they need to go above the 100 feet. Most likely the building will end up being around 106, but to allow for the parapet that's required and any other changes that may happen when they actually start installing the machine, we are asking to go to 115 feet. The other request that we're asking for is some flexibility in the building materials. I will show you, I have printed off copies if you want to look at them as well. So go to the next slide. Or it's this is our site plan. So currently, if you drive past this, and this building's just down from the corner from us, the building that exists, if I can walk over there. Over here, Marissa. This so this is Fulton Industrial, this is Great Southwest. This is the facility that exists there now. It's a red brick building, it's got fencing around it. It's a pretty secure building like all those facilities are. They're proposing to build this facility here in the front in this parking lot. The parking will now shift to this location, and there'll be another entrance added back here. This will all be just for trucks. This will not be public. This is just for the people making deliveries to this building. Go to the next slide. So, this is an aerial looking at the property. This is Fulton Industrial. This is Great Southwest. This is the existing building, which is a low bay red brick building. The expansion will have a low bay is how they would refer to this, meaning it's a low ceiling height. This will be a either tilt up wall with stamps to look like brick, or it'll be the matching brick material. So when you look at it, it'll be an extension of the same building. And then this is the high bay building. This is where the automated system's gonna be installed. Go to the next slide, please. So what we've done in working with staff was, let me get you oriented. This right here is looking at it from, so if you're driving on Fulton Industrial, this is what you'll see. This building here now exists in red brick. So this building, because of the height and what's inside of it, will be insulated metal panels. So that's what we're asking for the variance, is to allow this portion of the building to say insulated metal panels. But we will change the appearance here at the bottom, so you'll have the continuation of what looks to be the red brick, and then the upper portions of the building will be a natural light tone for a metal panel. And this is just looking at it from the different sides of the building. And like I said, I did print off some copies if you wanted to look at it. We're very excited about this. We think this is a welcome addition to Fulton Industrial. It'll be an attractive building, and we ask staff has placed 3 conditions on the variance, and the applicant and the owner agrees to all of them. So with that, we ask for your approval.
All right, drop something. All right, is there anybody else in support of this application? Is there anyone here opposed to this application? No?
No, sir.
All right, anything else, Ms. McCall?
No, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, let's entertain a motion to come out of public comment.
Make a motion that we come out of public comment for V 22-004.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Properly moved and seconded by Mr. Carson and Ms. Patterson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll go back down the line again with any questions, starting with Mr. Carson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So is all of that Coca-Cola's, that entire?
They own that whole parcel, yes.
Okay, and with this, were there, and this may be out of my credit, but I'm curious, were there traffic, is this gonna bring more traffic?
No,
More
this is
trucks
not
coming?
anticipated to bring any additional traffic. It's just additional storage is being added to the building.
Okay.
They will not, the amount of trucks coming in will not increase.
Okay, that was it for me, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What is a parapet?
So parapet is, like if you saw like an old, I think you look at here, like an old fashioned western town, it's something that hides the back. So if a roof is flat, it's something that comes up in the front, and makes the roof look not flat. That's all that is. It's just something like that would be on the tops of the building so it's gonna hide any sort of like mechanical equipment that would be on top of it.
So honestly, and I don't know if it's in the exact area, but my question is about the structural integrity of a lesser equipment, a lesser building material. Because we had a tornado come through, Fulton Industrial
Right.
a couple of years ago. So if we change it from last year, so if we change from masonry, which to me sounds very strong and durable, and I think about, people's safety and things like that, to something that you said, was it a metal?
It's insulated metal panels, like you see on high-rise buildings. It'll be a steel structure. It'll still be a strong structure. It's just the weight of it will not, won't be the same.
Is it a facade that you're asking to change, or?
It's the facade of the building, correct.
Okay. And please, can you clarify, is it just that part in the dark gray that you're asking, or is that whole
No,
part in yellow?
So the dark gray is the existing building. They're adding on to the front of the building. So what's shown in gray is the existing. There's a new, what they call a low bay building, or a low, a low roof building, which is the, sort of the red horizontal, and then the high bay building. Maybe if you go back one slide, I can show you all, that's everything there that's being added to the
The
building.
yellow.
The yellow and the letter M.
The color.
Okay.
All of it is,
I
yeah, okay,
understand.
yeah.
Thank you.
And we will meet, actually, the requirement for the low bay building is just 40%, it's gonna be 100% in the bottom, but we just need flexibility for the tall structure. We're gonna go with all insulated metal panels.
And this piece where the T, like it looks like a T towards the top, that shorter part, that's the part that's facing Fulton Industrial, right?
Correct,
So from the street, we'll see this tall structure?
correct.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, Mr. Mathis?
Yeah, I'm wondering if you guys consider anything besides metal. I know that, this is probably the sole thing that you're working on, Coca-Cola's big operation, but I mentioned that I live in District 3, and some of the shortcomings with that is that we border East Point and Union City, and they do all kind of ugly building just to, I believe, just to bring City of South Fulton down somewhat. But we've got a big Coca-Cola facility right in my backyard with that same ugly metal panel. Got some fancy looking glass windows on the front. But has anything else been considered besides?
No, that's not, that, from my understanding, this is what they've looked at for the building, what makes most sense for the building of this building. I should say that the overlay district
I haven't
has,
seen Coca-Cola, name on any kind of building, that looks like that outside of the city of South Fulton.
well, and you don't see the name of Coca-Cola on the building now. Coca-Cola, doesn't typically put their name on their buildings. That's for security reasons. And the building is very secure, so there may be other buildings that you've seen that were Coca-Cola that were not to the same design. That's the only reason I'm saying that is.
No, I'm speaking to a building that is right in my backyard, but sits in the city
Right.
of Union City. And, they let Coca-Cola make that building with the same metal.
Right. Metal panels are allowed within your overlay district. This is an industrial area that allows for building materials. As I said earlier, the bottom portion of the building will be 100%. It's only required to be 40%, but it will be 100% in the low portion. We're just,
That top,
it's the top part where they need a little more flexibility in the
And that's the
metal
portion
panels.
you're asking for variance, right?
Correct.
So
And-
what else has been considered besides this? metal
No, they have
panel?
not considered anything else besides the metal panels, just because that's what's needed for the weight of the building and flexibility.
I see some tall Coca-Cola buildings downtown.
Right, this is an automated, this is an industrial use. My understanding, there was an industrial building that was approved, for 150 feet in the same general area, it's also insulated metal panels. So what we're doing for the bottom to give some variety is we're using a darker color at the bottom of the building to allow for it to seem a seamless transition with the existing building.
That was my question about the color. The other part is red.
Correct, the bottom part of the building is a red, natural red brick color.
And you're making this like a lighter color. Why not make that in red as well?
Just because then it would really look like a huge, wall there. It's just, because it's lighter, it won't give you the perception of the height that it is. It'll blend more with the sky, so it'll just be a solid base on the bottom. The middle panels will be darker on the bottom, and then it'll be a lighter color above. It would be much more noticeable if it was a dark color all the way to the top.
Yeah, that right there is noticeable.
Yes, it will be, you'll see it.
Yeah, you're gonna see that.
Right.
Regardless what color that is.
That's correct.
Alright, I didn't have anything else.
All right. I don't have any questions. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we close the floor for public comment.
Second.
We already did that.
What are we in right now?
We closed public, he confused me for a second, I'm sorry. I could've sworn, I was like, did we do that? No, so public comment, when you open it, they basically just tell it, you close it, and then it gives them an opportunity to answer questions, and then we can make a decision as to whether or not to approve, deny, delay, whatever we decide, whatever the will of the board is.
But may I ask one more question?
Absolutely. Well, I'm sorry, if it's up to Mr. Mathis, since he had the floor.
No, by all means.
So if this isn't approved, what are you gonna do? If you don't have the proper height, what is your company gonna be able to do with that?
Well, they may not make the industrial investment.
So they just won't have the apparatus you need to do the bottling and whatnot?
Correct. I'm not sure, that I've not had that conversation with them. If the variance was denied, it's my understanding that the variance is necessary in order to install and make this investment into the building. So I'm not sure what would happen if the variance is not approved.
Okay, so it sounds like they pretty much think that
Well, I
they're
think
gonna
this
get
is an
approved.
exciting opportunity, yeah, so.
Yeah,
Well, let me rephrase it, let me ask a different question. So
Sure.
if, I can't speak to that, but it's an opportunity to where if they weren't able to do it and then found somewhere else to do it.
You mean somewhere else in another jurisdiction,
I won't say jurisdiction, I'll just say industrial area.
right. Well, they have the facility here, and so they're looking to make an expansion, expand on the existing facility they have in Fulton Industrial.
Okay.
I'm glad you piggybacked on my question because, it raised another point in my mind. You said that they probably would not make the investment, so.
I'm not sure of that yet.
Yeah, that's fine, but it's kind of, double-edged sword. If this is approved and they do make the investment, and they decide to move on, what other uses are there for that type of structure? What would be the market for
Well, I
somebody
can't
to come
speak to
in?
that. I can say that
Yes,
there are
it'd
other
just be a
buildings,
huge,
I can
ugly
speak to,
structure in the city of South Fulton, Coca-Cola going about its business.
well, only thing I can speak to is that I know that there are other buildings in Fulton Industrial. This is a common new technology to build these automated storage and racking systems. It's basically like the warehouse that's behind you now. If they build stacks of, racks in order to store material. So it's really the ceiling height that you're getting here and the ability to install that equipment.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're talking about an extra 15 feet, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right now, the building would be allowed to be 100 feet, so we're asking for
Yeah,
flexibility to.
I'm not talking about necessarily the height. I mean, you know, we're talking about context. 15 feet ain't much when you're talking about 106.
Correct.
You're talking about the other part of the metal.
Right. It's an allowed material in industrial areas.
So why are we needing a variance for that?
Because we are gonna exceed we don't have the minimum percentage that we need of the other materials. We're asking to go 100% metal panel on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
So that's
correct.
why, you trying to tell me without asking what you're asking for.
No, I'm sorry, if that was seen that way. We are asking for something that is an exception to the rule, correct?
so you really don't have to have this, specialized equipment system here to make this operation run.
I cannot speak to that. That is a decision that's made by the Coca-Cola Corporation. They wanna make this investment and expand this existing facility. In order to do that, they need to install this equipment. In order to install this equipment, they need to have flexibility in the height of the building.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve V22-004 with the staff recommendations listed here in the report.
All right, is there a second?
I second it.
All right, properly moved and seconded by Mr. Carson and Ms. Patterson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
So that's 3-1, motion approved.
Who said no?
Mr. Mathis.
Thank you.
All right, let's double check this agenda.
Did you ever get a chance to speak with Bruce Griffin? He tried calling me.
All right, this will probably go down in the record as
Okay.
the longest meeting we have had.
he is not gonna be the one.
Would not there be items on it? Yes, ma'am.
Dermatology
Introduce our
work done.
two other staff people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, sure, go ahead, since they've been sitting here waiting patiently.
So, Mr. Sunday Odudu joined us on Monday,
All right, welcome, sir.
What
and
is
our
he do? What's your title?
planner,
Planner, okay.
and our new director, Mr. Derek Cole, joined us.
Oh, you're Mr. Ho.
I
Yeah,
am.
we had no idea. How are you, sir?
That's the intent.
All
I
right.
come in very, under the radar. I am well.
All right,
Okay, I'm done.
you're done?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I am, thank you so much, Mr. Carson.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to close the meeting.
You know, just for the
Aaron
record,
Johnson.
that's Carson over there. He's just slightly taller.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we close the hearing,
Well, we've already closed the hearing. We can adjourn this time.
adjourn the meeting, let's go.
Second.
So Matthew.
Mr. Mathis, made a motion to adjourn. Mr. Carson made a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, we are not hearing from. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.